It's my eyebrow wiggle. It's when I get excited. So today I'm going to be doing a review, a demo, a first time tryout of the new Clarisonic foundation brush. I say new, but this has actually been out for a few months now. In fact, I gotta show you guys this because this cracks me up. I go to Google it because I wanted to be sure that I knew how much it was. And it says right here, Clarisonic foundation brush head, only at Ulta, and then proceeds to list all the other places that you can buy it online. You gotta love shit like that. This is an attachment that you use on your existing Clarisonic, so you will need to already own a Clarisonic. This brush head is $35. It does have some pretty favorable reviews on the internets, so I'm kind of excited about that. That's internets plural. The internets. This came out a couple of months ago, and I don't know why I didn't jump on the bandwagon right away. To be honest with you guys, I have not actually used my Clarisonic in quite some time. Just kind of fell out of favor with me for whatever reason. And in fact, when I went to charge it to use it for this video, it like didn't immediately start charging, and it freaked me out. I'm like, oh my god, it died. I couldn't believe that I had like just bought this and this wasn't working. But then it started charging, so it was all good. So for my primer today, I'm using the Smashbox Photo Finish Primer, the original one. Let me take my nose ring off too, because that's not so much fun to put foundation on top of your nose ring. Test this out with the Makeup Forever HD. I wear the shade 115, which is the equivalent of R230. Not the lightest shade they carry, but a very light pink-based shade. And I'm going to paint this on my face. I have my little thing on there. Let's turn it on and make it happen. Oh, that feels like really strong. Okay, I lowered it down to like the normal vibration because it felt a little too harsh on like the harder vibration. This is a Clarisonic Mia 2. Move a mirror closer so you can see as well. So the idea is that you use a circular motion, but you don't rub or like buff it into your skin too hard. You just kind of, maybe I should just like smear it. Probably should have read how you're supposed to use this before I did. It feels good as ever. It feels like a nice massage while I'm putting on my foundation, which I very much enjoy. Okay, I'm already running out of time with this, and I haven't even done half my face. So it looks like something where you're going to have to press it twice to get the whole face done. Yep. Blending it down the neck. Let's zoom it in and see how it did. And coverage-wise, I think it's quite good. Maybe a little heavy. That could have just been me being heavy-handed with the foundation. I'm also not really, like, texturally, it doesn't look as smooth, but I also haven't put on my powder yet. So let's go ahead and finish everything up. A little concealing action. This is from Wet n Wild, the Photo Focus, which is fabulous. Now to blend these in, I'm not going to use the Clarisonic because I don't want to get the Clarisonic that close to my eyeball. I'm going to blend these in with a Real Techniques sponge. To set, I'm using the NYX HD powder, which is just a pure silica powder. Doesn't add any real texture or color, which is great for testing out something like this. Now I've set one side and not the other, so we can see the difference. This is the unset side. And this is the side that I've set with powder. So you can see you get that good pore coverage, and the texture is much improved now. The foundation feels really well spread out. It doesn't feel like thick or heavy, which this foundation occasionally can do if it's over applied, and I did apply quite a bit of it. So I'm pretty damn impressed that it was able to blend it down to a very comfortable feeling and all that nice neat stuff. But I'm never one to leave well enough alone, so I want to test this out with one other foundation. So I'm going to go wash all this off and I'll be right back. Alright, I've washed my face. I have applied a bit of moisturizer. What I'm loving right now, this is Paula's Choice Resist Mega Plus Complex. This is a serum technically, but it has a lotion-like texture, and it always makes my skin feel amazing. So now I want to test this out with a liquid foundation. I'm going to be using the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Foundation in Nude Ivory, which I love this foundation. I'm also going to be using the Wet n Wild Primer because I find that those two play nicely together. Now, this foundation has an applicator that kind of comes out from the bottle. I would prefer a pump, but you know, I'll take this foundation however I can get it because it's quite lovely. It has a bit of a weird smell, almost like acrylic paint, but it also kind of smells sweet to me, like an caramel apple candy. Maybe that's just me. Let's do this. All right, I have cleaned the Clarisonic, let it dry and everything, so we are ready to rock and roll. So you're not supposed to scrub it in. Keep that in mind. You're supposed to like glide it over the skin, much like when you use your Clarisonic for you know, general cleaning purposes and stuff. Oh, I've never liked the Clarisonic on my nose. One of the reasons why I stopped using it as often is because it tickled on my nose so much. I guess I could just not use it on my nose, but you know, it's one of those things where we don't always really think about why we stopped doing something until after we've stopped doing it. And then down the neck. So I feel like two clicky beeps is pretty much the average, but this was faster than with the cream foundation. So let's zoom in. Not having as many textural issues with this one. It could be partially because this is a more matte foundation, whereas the Makeup Forever HD has more of like a glowy look to it, so you're going to see a little bit more texture when you're really up close. So now what I want to do is actually test this out with a contour. They say that you can do your cream contour with it, so I'm game to try that out. I'm going to be using one from Smashbox. This is a shaping foundation and sculpting. So I'm taking the contour side and drawing it on. I really love the shade of this contour, this stick contour. Perfect color, perfect color. Let's do it. That blended out really quite lovely. I'm quite happy with that. I would contour my nose, but I don't wanna. As always, I will knock off the excess with my brush. Final thoughts. It's not as soft as I thought it would be. I thought it would be more like these like very dense, very velvety types of brushes. Not necessarily this shape, but just, you know what I'm talking about. And instead it feels a little bit more like a stippling brush to me, which I think could account for why this looked a little more textured, particularly when I use the cream product, because when I use that type of stippling brush, I don't like the way that it looks on my skin. However, with a more like matte liquid foundation, I think this looks awesome. Like, I'm super impressed with it. And it's not like it hurt or anything. It just had less of a soft feeling than what I was expecting. Do I think that this is easier than applying this with like a beauty blender or a traditional brush? Maybe not, but it is still pretty cool. I wouldn't go out of my way to buy a Clarisonic to buy this brush head, but if you already have the Clarisonic, this might be something you want to try out. I know a lot of people are really liking it. I don't know if I'm going to be a convert and use it all the time, but I did like it, and I will experiment with it a little more. We'll see how it shakes out, if this ends up becoming something I use all the time, or if it's just something that's kind of neat, that's an option, but isn't my favorite, if that makes sense. One other thing I want to mention is that you can't use this with powder. They specifically say this is not for use with powder, and that makes sense because it's got bristles on it, so it's going to pick up more powder, it's going to fly everywhere. However, if you really like the idea of a vibrating applicator, one that works amazing for powder is the ColorMe. This is from a company called ColorMe. This is the Pro Edition, which is rose gold. This has a little velour puff on it, so it picks up a little bit less product and you're not going to get that product flying all over the place. This is actually one of my favorite tools for applying powder foundation, so this one I highly recommend for powder foundation, although I will say I don't love this one completely for liquid foundation, whereas this one works quite well for liquid foundation, so the more you know. Alright guys, I hope that you enjoyed this little YouTube made me buy it review. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I'm excited that this thing actually works. Remember to vintage or tacky, just be your own kind of beautiful. See you, bye!